Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Food Enthusiast. This is the second episode. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm an author, cook, publicist, food stylist, and tortured baker. I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming response from our first episode. We had over 1,800 views on our video on the J Moore Facebook Live. The Food Enthusiast will cover not only local food news, national food news, but we're going to have guests. And today I'm excited. I'm really excited because we have Jason Hisley here from Cake by Jason, but many of you might recognize Jason from the Food Network and 14 different baking competitions that he's been in. Jason's Cake by Jason is on Padonia Road. What's the shopping center name?
It's Padonia Village, and we're at 47 East Padonia.
And so his shop is there, but you can also see him on the Food Network every Sunday at 9 p.m. now for the Holiday Wars, which is a competition, a team competition. Mm-hmm. So Jason, fill me in more about Holiday Wars.
Absolutely. So I've done a bunch of shows, but this really is like none of the other ones I've done before. Every episode has 2 rounds. So the first round is a little bit smaller, and you're kind of just making a quick cake in 45 minutes to hopefully get an advantage for the second round. So an extra assistant, so someone else helping. But then the second round is literally these crazy 5-foot by 5-foot cake, chocolate, and sugar displays where we're working on a team of 4 trying to make these huge things come to life.
Let me ask you this. This goes back a ways. I met one of the chefs that was on Iron Chef.
Yeah.
And I said, you cannot walk into this competition and know exactly all these recipes. I said, what's going on? And they said, well, they give us 5 options of products, specific products, and then we have to come up with recipes. So that all the product is there for them when they go into competition. Do you have something similar to that you can talk about that's not in your contract?
So there is a huge contract signing off everything about the show. But that being said, I mean, the reality is that a lot of what you see for the baking is 100% true. Like the time limits are real. Everything there that's happening is really happening to all the contestants and everybody. What I usually tell people is if you think there's a little TV magic going on somewhere, you're probably right on some level. But that being said, with baking, I mean, for us and me, when I approach these competitions, I'll memorize maybe 5 or 6 recipes that are core foundation recipes. So an excellent vanilla batter, a chocolate batter, a frosting, and maybe like a meringue or something like that. And things that we can then, springboard off of. I think the savory chefs actually have it a little bit harder sometimes because cooking different meats and all these varieties that they can get thrown into is a little bit crazier than for me. Usually I have a very strict set of things that I can kind of start with and then spin that into other stuff.
Well, obviously you're not baking the cakes that you're sitting there cutting and molding.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those for this competition, it is all pre-made like sheet cakes, and even they say on the show, that it's pre-made. Yeah,
because that would be insane.
Yeah.
Last Sunday's episode you won, so episode 2, you've moved on to, I guess, how many more episodes on?
So there's 2 more. So we're moving on to the 3rd episode this Sunday, and then hopefully if we make it through that, the last episode, the finale, will be December 22nd. So hopefully. That's
great. So last week you had to do a special gift. The main project was, what type of gift would you give Santa for Christmas?
Yes.
And in the box was a dog's head.
Yes.
And funny that dog looked like one of your bulldogs.
Of course.
Now, I want to know, you have 2 bulldogs, Peaches and Bowser.
Yep, correct.
Okay, so which one was it?
Oh, I can't pick, I can't choose favorites, but it did have like some spots like Peach. So she's my baby. She was my first. So she definitely comes through a lot more in our work.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And what's this with a hedgehog?
I know. Our lead cake designer, Nicole, just got it's her new baby, Olive the hedgehog.
So should we be expecting to see at Cake by Jason a hedgehog cake?
Absolutely. I mean, we have in the shop, if you stop by, we have Peach and Bowser up on the walls. So now it's just time to get hedgehog Olive.
It's great fun, and you've been in 14 different competitions.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah, it's 14. Some I've done a couple times, so I still count those separate, just because one was like Cupcake Wars, one was Cupcake Wars Mega, so it was like winners going back to do it. I've done Cutthroat Kitchen, Halloween Baking Championship, a show called Cake Hunters, Sweet Genius with Ron Ben Israel, and yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Okay, so you won, let me see from my notes,
Yeah.
Cupcake Wars,
Yep.
Cake Wars,
Uh-huh.
Cake Hunters.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah, those it's actually fun. I've come either one or came in second in everything except for Cutthroat Kitchen. I came in third, but that was really savory. So I'm not really.
we won't hold you accountable for that because it's savory.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We were talking savory before. Let me just check my news. What is coming up at Cake by Jason? You do cooking classes, right?
Yeah. So we've kind of had to put a couple on hold because of the show. We're doing a bunch of stuff like viewing parties and different things like that. But we do have a cooking class next week. It's just sugar cookie decorating. So next Sunday, before the show, actually, we decorate cookies. But we also do things like learn how to make a unicorn cake or learn how to frost cupcakes the right way.
And working with fondant.
Absolutely, yeah. Working with fondant and isomalt, we even do like sugar classes, tempering chocolate, like how you can actually be a little baker at home.
Now, the cookie decorating, is that available for children as well as adults?
Yep, that one's really geared a lot towards kids. You get a dozen sugar cookies and all the colors and bags and frostings you can imagine to decorate them. So we clean up the mess. You just have fun.
Which wasn't bad. You had like a little preview for your show and what was going on. I was over there, and you gave everybody piping bags. So it was interesting to see some of these adults who have never picked up a piping bag decorating the cupcakes. I had some technical questions.
Sure.
And everybody, I suggest to send in any baking questions you have. I'll be looking at my phone and we'll ask Jason. So we were talking before about measuring flour.
Yes.
And prior to that, the difference between bleached flour and unbleached flour.
Yes.
Because unbleached flour I used in my biscotti, but I had been using regular flour, and I noticed a difference in texture. Can you fill me in on that?
Absolutely. So the process of bleaching flour does a couple things. One, whenever you go to actually buy flour and consume flour, it has been aged for a certain amount of time just to develop flavor. Bleaching it does two things. It helps decrease the time that they have to age it, so it allows them to sell it faster, kind of like everything's trying to get faster production.
Right.
And then it also refines the flour a bit. So it does actually make a softer flour. I kind of relate it to like a white bread versus a multigrain bread. Obviously, it's not as extreme as those two are, but that's kind of the way you can think about it, where unbleached flour might be a little bit more texture, it might have a little bit of a rougher feel, whereas the bleached flour will have like a softer feel, more like kind of like a white bread style.
So there's cake flour. What's the difference between cake flour and regular flour?
Yeah, so basically there's a range of like gluten in flour. So you have cake flour, then you have all-purpose, and you have bread flour. Those are kind of like the three standards.
Right.
Cake flour has very minimal gluten content. All-purpose flour has about a midway or mid-range, and then bread flour has the highest amount of gluten or protein too. Basically, they're used differently. So like, gluten gives you that like chewy bread texture, and then not having the gluten in the flour gives you that really light and fluffy cake feel. So cake flour is great for cakes and muffins and cookies and things like that, but for breads and all, something where you need that chew, that elasticity, you'd really want to use like a bread flour.
And we were talking measuring. I hope we're not boring people, but
I get excited about it.
I get mixed messages, like Gourmet Magazine, may it rest in peace, and Bon Appetit. They go, if you're measuring flour, to take a spoon and measure into your cup and then level it off. Mm-hmm. And then a chef that I work with over in Washington, basically she just stirs up her flour and puts a cup in and levels it off.
Yeah. So basically, the way it works with baking, really the best thing to do is get a scale. I mean, now anywhere like Walmart, Target, anywhere you can get like a $20 scale, and you can actually weigh out your ingredients. And even if your recipe calls for a cup of flour, a cup of sugar, just go online and do a quick search, 1 cup of flour to weight. And it might be, 7 ounces or whatever it is. And then basically you can use that in the recipe instead. So I really do like to weigh the ingredients because it'll always be exact. But that being said, if you're doing something like flour flour or a dry good, I recommend the same thing. I just kind of like toss it up or shake up the bag a little bit just to loosen it up. The easiest way to think about it is with brown sugar, so in every recipe it says packed brown sugar. Well, you could pack flour too and get, a ton of it or just a little bit of it. So usually with flour, they say to loosen it up and lighten it up to measure it just because it gives you a little bit more accuracy. But the best thing to do is get a scale, and it's a lot of recipes nowadays are even switching to weights because it's easy and it's less messy. You put a bowl down on top of a scale and you just dump everything into it.
Right. You were saying earlier that there's a website that converts because, when you're saying for a cup of flour, you don't want 8 ounces of flour because that's going to be half your bag. Yeah. So it'll give you an idea of the conversion.
Yep, exactly. Every ingredient's going to have a different weight. But what's great, even just Google. You can just go to Google and type it in, weight of 1 cup flour, and it'll spit it out for you.
That's true.
Weight of 1 cup, or even 1 tablespoon of something. If you want to weigh it, you could do that. Yeah.
Let me bring you in onto some national food news. Let's talk Art Basel.
Yes.
Which is the art show in Miami.
Uh-huh.
And there was an exhibition of a banana duct taped to a canvas that sold for $120,000. Mm-hmm. And then another artist came by and took the banana off and ate the banana.
Yep.
Now, following that, it seems like I looked at your Instagram, which is Cake by Jason, and what do I see? There's a cake with a banana.
Absolutely. If someone else is selling it for $100,000, I'm trying to make 2 months, bills and get it taken care of. So one of the things I love about baking is especially with the cake side, we're so visual, so we can really play off of all of these things that are happening in society and on social media and Instagram and things that people can relate to. So of course, when someone's selling a piece of artwork that goes viral and everyone hears about it, we have to the next day make a little dummy cake that we put up in our shop that has a banana duct tape to it.
That's so funny. But one of your friends did a GoFundMe page.
I was like, actually, if somebody raises this money to buy this,
it was $80,000 or $90,000.
Yeah,
somebody donated $5.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Isn't that fun?
We're a little far away from 90,000, but
right. But I don't know if they'll hit the goal, but
we'll see.
Maybe,
if they do, I'll give them the
maybe
cake.
It's a blessing. You'll do a real cake rather than a mock-up.
Absolutely.
The other thing we talked about, I was curious about, is the ruby chocolate.
Yeah.
Now, some of you might not know about ruby chocolate. We know 3 chocolates, which is dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate, which really isn't chocolate. Yeah. But the FDA gives them the name. They've been able to get that name. And this red ruby cacao bean through Calibo, they're trying to get it designated as the 4th chocolate. Tell me a little bit more about the ruby chocolate.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because when you think about it, it's dark milk and white, and Calibo is trying to introduce basically a brand new chocolate, calling the ruby chocolate. And it, I looked up a little bit of research on it too when our vendors started saying they would carry it. It's something they've been working on for I think 15 years now, or even it's been since 2003 or 2004. A couple people describe it as kind of like taking a little bit of milk chocolate, white chocolate, and like a raspberry flavor and kind of tasting it that way. Right now it's really proprietary to Calibo and what they're doing. But even like Kitkat bars have launched a ruby chocolate Kitkat bar in like China and a couple other areas. But I've got some and tried it. To me, it's like a slightly sour, like it has a little bit of that raspberry kind of sour tartness to it.
So it has a berry.
Yeah, it does have like this almost berry flavor to it, but it definitely to me is more white chocolate than darker milk. Like it's definitely a sweeter chocolate. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. And sometimes, like coffee beans and things of nature, wherever it grows. Yeah. Where it grows, it takes on the flavors.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if where they're finding that cacao bean, if there's a strong berry growth around there that might be
contributing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because it seems like the color too is natural. Whatever the process is that they're doing, the ruby color that comes out is a natural color, as opposed to, like a lot of caramel chocolates, or they have a golden chocolate, that's really just like a caramel, is a lot of artificial coloring. So it's kind of, I think it's a really unique and neat product, and I think you're going to start seeing it really hit the market in the next 2 to 3 years, just because it's different. Valentine's Day, I mean, what's better than red and pink chocolate?
Right. People are going to, they have to know that it's not white chocolate being colored,
Yeah.
that it is a true cacao bean.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you say the difference is between white chocolate and regular chocolate?
Yeah, so really, like you said, white chocolate's not really a chocolate. They remove all of the cocoa fat kind of out of it, and they replace it with margarines and oils, and it's very sweet. So it is more of a sugary kind of flavor. To me, it always tastes like if you warm up or scald milk and get that like caramel milk flavor. If you kind of know what I'm talking about, like
Okay.
heated milk, then sweetened is white chocolate. And it's, dark chocolate, obviously there's just so many ranges of it and so many flavor profiles that you can get.
You told me that in your education and working course, first of all, let me say that Jason is a graduate of Johnson and Wales.
Yeah.
But you went to Switzerland, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, I have a pastry certification from Switzerland. It was a restaurant school, literally on the side of a mountain, overlooking a giant Swiss lake. It was crazy.
Oh, well, that's real tough.
Yes, it was a really hard. There was goats on one side, cows on the other, and it was a hard life. Yeah.
Well, at least the milk was fresh, right?
Absolutely.
Also, in your apprenticeships and things that you've done, you said that you did work at kosher bakeries.
Yes, yeah. So I've done e-kosher and kosher parv just to see different. I love experiencing new cultures and learning different ways of cooking and different techniques. And what's really interesting, especially about kosher in the baking world, I would say 99% of the stuff we use is kosher. And then, obviously going through the facility, permits and getting everything taken care of from there, it's a different story. But the
Right.
products are almost always kosher anyway, which is great.
Well, I keep looking at the phone and I'm losing my
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
but we'll get it back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What I wanted to also talk about, and you can jump in here, I always like to do local restaurant news and
Yeah.
what's going on. Before I forget about it, locally, at the Jewish Museum on Sunday,
Yeah.
they're having a Jewish bake-off. So they're selling tickets. So if you're a great baker, hurry up. You can pay to be there and have people taste it and go for the different awards because they have different categories.
Yeah.
Or you can pay for another ticket and come and eat all the sweets. And that will be obviously kosher baking. My biscotti would pass because
Yeah.
there's nothing in it. It's flour, cranberries, and
yep.
pistachio. I just want to jump in here and say last week we had the fabulous Kit Pollard
Yes.
and tied in with Suzanne Loudermilk about the lost restaurants of Baltimore. And I said the best memory, I would send him my book. So I'm going to read from Chuck Smolkin, who he listened to the whole program, so God love him. It was fabulous. How about Hausner's? On Thursday nights at the Pimlico Hotel, Bruce Westcott appeared for dancing, and at the little room on the right, which when you came in the door, you went to the right, which was the bar area. He was part of a group of young married, but he would look at the older men who were there from the racetrack, and they were always trying to pick up the young girls. They used to laugh at them thinking, who could be that old? But I think I've hit it. So, Chuck, I've already told you I got your address. You're getting a copy of the book. And just to tie in on the Pimlico, in those days,
Yeah.
it would be single nights on Thursday. He talked about the old men because I'm 5 feet tall. The jockeys would hit on me.
Oh, gosh. Hey, it's still a compliment,
I know. They would look at my wrists. They would take my wrists and
Yeah.
say, well, you can't, your wrists aren't strong enough. And I go, well, I don't want to ride a horse.
It's not much, yeah.
Anything. Also going on with local news, just for my group, my seniors. If you don't know it, that's ShopRite on Tuesdays. For seniors, you get a 5% discount. At Giant Food, you can go into Giant Food, go to the customer service desk, and ask to sign up for the seniors coupons, and they get mailed to you monthly. I usually get like a $4 coupon on a $40 purchase, so that's pretty good. Also, I want to congratulate our house down in Remington, the food center, a food hall.
Yeah.
Okay. They're celebrating 3 years, and they have a new vendor coming in that did pop-ups called Creole Soul, and you can go in there and get your beignets.
Oh.
Be sure to put the powdered sugar on there and take my breath away. That's all I remember when I was down in New Orleans is
taking a bite and just
and taking in that sugar. But you'll have your po' boys, you'll have your gumbo, so check in there. And right in Mount Vernon, Trinakia, I couldn't think for a second. Trinakia's restaurant has reopened, which is down in Mount Vernon, so that is opening
that's
up.
interesting.
They have reopened. And what else can I tell you? Okay, Gertrude's. I'm all into cooking classes. At Gertrude's on Saturday from 10 to 1 p.m., they are doing an El Salvadorian cooking class. It'll be a brunch and alcohol all-inclusive for $75. So if you're into cooking classes and eating what is being done, definitely contact them.
Awesome.
And actually, I'm going that day at 2 o'clock because he's doing holiday teas. So I'm going with my neighbor to do holiday teas.
That's awesome.
Have you ever done any teas?
Like a high tea or doing like anything in the shop?
Anything in the shop?
So it's funny. We've done a lot of events like Mommy and Me where we do like kind of like a high tea kind of style. And we try to make it nice and get in some really nice teas and all. And do it more kind of like loose style and let people try their own and mix blends and things like that. It's funny. I actually used to work with somebody who was more of a tea expert by all means than I am. And they kind of helped us with some of those things. So we love to have those little kind of like pop-up shop kind of experiences.
Well, I'm good for tea. I actually brought in Ahmed tea, Ahmad teas. I get it at the Russian market. Just came out with a green tea that's lychee and mango.
Oh, wow.
You don't need anything else, and I gave it to Simone here, and she liked it too. Very aromatic.
Yeah.
And I think, we're doing pretty well on time. Can we wrap up number one and tell people that they can find you at Cake by Jason?
Yeah, we're Cake by Jason. We're in Timonium. All of our social media is just Cake by Jason too. So it's pretty easy to find.
You know what I loved at your place? You have a counter. A counter of, I was sitting there watching it, their numbers of how many Facebook followers you have and Instagram, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and it changed. So as people come on, it's automatic. That was really, I went, if I wasn't already doing it, I'd do it just to see the numbers.
That's what's, it's a company called Smurl, actually, and they've blown up over the past 2 or 3 years. And you can get counters, small ones or big ones, depending as you grow, for anything from Instagram likes to Facebook likes to even like companies are doing charity work. They can do like dollar amounts, and then it all live updates. So like you said, what's great is we have people come in and it says, like us and see it update. Even if they weren't going to like us, they're going to, to see it flip.
We get the numbers up.
Yeah.
And what I want to say to people is, before I forget, the Food Enthusiast is open to advertisers. So please reach out. You can reach me at food@jmoreliving.com. That's my email address here. Or reach out to J Moore to speak with the salesperson. We'd love to have you in here. We'd give you great spots. Obviously, the top of the show, the middle of the show, and wrap it up and talk about what you want to promote. Next week, we're going to sort of do a Hanukkah theme, and we're going to have Jason Herskowitz. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, from Hirsch's, which is, I was trying to decide last week, is it Port Covington or is it Riverside? I can't tell. It's at the foot of Light Street. Yeah. So Jason will be on here, and hopefully we'll talk different Hanukkah themes and memories from my Hanukkah at home to his, and we hope people will come in with those. I want to say that on December 26th, we were hoping to have Chelsea Gregoire from Tree Chesapeake, but it seems our engineer will not be here that day, so she'll be back on probably maybe around Valentine's Day to talk about bubbles. And I'm trying to also think about a clever closing to my show. So I'll send you a bunch of biscotti if you come up with a good closing line. Right now I'm going to say thanks for joining us. My closing line for today is, may your plates remain full. Do come back with your suggestions on maybe a better closing. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you for having me.